Peace. This is Wise for Wise Words Media back at y'all for another round. And Knick fans, man, I'm done. That's it. I don't ever want to hear this thing again for this season or for this iteration of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't ever want to hear nobody say, oh, I'm not worried about Cleveland because we beat them already. Dude, we beat them like 2-3 years ago. That doesn't count. This is a different team. And you see, a lot of people call Knick fans a delusional fan base. I'm a Knick fan, proud Knick fan for over 30 years. But, yes, it's true. I agree with non-Knick fans that call Knick fans delusional. I agree because there is a big, huge consensus of Knick fans that are super delusional. So they think because we beat a young Cleveland Cavaliers team 2-3 years ago, where Darius Garland and what's his name? Evan Mobley. These dudes were still in puberty. And we beat them. Y'all think it's the same team. It's not the same team. These guys have grown, they're matured, the game has slowed down for them. Their roster is improved. They went and filled up certain holes. Their bench is deeper. They are a better team than they were when we played them. They are a different team. And you want to know how silly it is when Knick fans say, oh, we beat them, but we beat them before, so I'm not worried about them. You want to know how silly that is? Equating that we can beat Cleveland because we beat them 2 years ago is like saying Atlanta could beat us because Atlanta beat us 3 years ago. Oh, but that offends Knick fans. Knick fans get offended with that. What? Atlanta's not the same. They're not the same. Yes, that's right. Atlanta's not the same. Just like that Knick team was not the same Knick team that we had now. That Cavs team is not the same. You can't equate just because Atlanta beat us 3 years ago. That doesn't mean Atlanta could beat us today. The same thing goes for Cleveland. Just because we beat Cleveland 3 years ago or 2 years ago, that does not mean that we automatically beat Cleveland. That doesn't give us a bye in the playoffs. You have to go out there and produce. And those lights that was so bright for the young talents like Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, those lights, Jared Allen, and those lights were bright. They're not having those problems anymore. And they swept the season series against the Knicks. Sweeping us. So I don't ever want to hear that for the while that Cleveland Cavaliers team is constructed the way it is right now, this iteration of Cleveland, I don't ever want to hear a Knick fan talking about, oh, we could beat them because we beat them before. That's so asinine. I don't understand Knick fans, delusional Knick fans. There's a handful of Knick fans that I build with every day that, they're not delusional. They call it as they see it. Oh, this team is going to give us trouble. Oh, that team is coming up. Or we can't beat that team. We can't beat Boston. Like, they call it how they see it. They're not delusional. But this team is not this Cleveland Cavaliers team. I made a video about a month ago on the Cleveland Cavaliers for real. Yes, they are. Because the reason they lost a couple years ago to us is because their talent was young and raw. Like, the moment was too big. The lights were too bright in the Garden, and they couldn't overwhelm. They couldn't overcome. They were overwhelmed by the moment, by the intensity, by the lights, and that Garden crowd. It was too much. But now they got a couple years under their belt right now, and they feeling themselves. They're like, yo, this ain't no fluke, man, and we ready to show y'all this ain't a fluke. And this is why they have been on a rampage, man, because they have matured now. Now, these guys, when we played them, Darius Garland wasn't in his prime. Evan Mobley wasn't in his prime. Donovan Mitchell was just entering his prime. He was just turning like 24, 25. Now these dudes is all, now Garland, I believe, is like 24. Mobley, I think, is like 23. They're entering their prime now. The game slows down for them. They're physically a little bigger and stronger now. They're entering their prime. They can think the game out just as well as they can execute because they're still young and they're stronger. So they're in their prime now. Donovan Mitchell is smack in the middle of his prime. He's still in his like late 20s. So we got to understand that team we played is not the same team. They were young. Now these dudes they're there. They made it. And they are a problem. They're going to be a problem for everybody. Not just the Knicks. They're going to be a problem for everyone because they have a closer in Donovan Mitchell that can just give me the ball and make something happen. You need that in the playoffs. You know how many times, people praise Phil Jackson and that triangle offense, and you know how many times the triangle offense failed? Because in the playoffs, it's all about making adjustments. You watch a lot of film. You're picking up on certain traits and certain habits that certain players have. So the triangle failed many a times in the playoffs, whether it's the Bulls, whether it's the Lakers. But you know what they had? They had Michael Jordan as a plan B. Not a bad plan B. You know what's not a bad plan B neither? Shaquille O'Neal. You know what's also not a bad plan B? Kobe Bryant. Scottie Pippen. These were the plan Bs. When you got Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal in his prime as a plan B, you're in a good place. And that helps. You need that guy that when all else fails, you give them the ball and, they'll make something happen. But, the Knicks, going into these playoffs, we cannot overlook what the Cleveland Cavaliers have done this season, and especially what they've done to us. Now, not just what they've done to the league, holding that first place record, but what they've done to the Knicks. This was a statement what they did this season against us. They're letting us know they're not the same team. Boston took them lightly, started laughing mid-game. They came back and beat Boston. So, dudes better get your head out because Cleveland's here. Cleveland's here and they're a problem. We're not just worried about Boston anymore. You can add Cleveland to that mix. I'm Watch for Wise Words Media. Peace.